Thank you all for being here. I'm very happy to welcome you all. Today we are having the kickoff meeting of the team for North America region that we expect to be a very active group. The participation of this regional team is vital for Ocean Prediction Decade Collaborative Center, since it is a very well-structured community. Ocean Prediction DCC can provide an additional layer to this community by linking with additional sectors beyond the science community and by using the tools that will be provided by the Ocean Prediction DCC. We'll share with you the agenda of today's meeting, and as you can see, we will have 3 sessions. So the first session will be an introduction to Ocean Prediction DCC, and I will share the first session. The second session will be chaired by Patrick Hogan from the NOAA, and it will be about a mapping of the present-day situation of forecasting system and the blue economy impact. And the last session will be chaired by Enrique Alvarez Fanjul, which is the technical coordinator of Ocean Prediction DCC, and it will be an interactive session. The first two presentations will be made by video and are recorded. So we will share the first that is an introduction on DCC and made by Alison Clausen from the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission. So Vincent, if you can share the first video.
So good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Alison Clausen. I'm a program specialist at the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission of UNESCO, and I'm also the Deputy Coordinator of the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development. And I'm thrilled to welcome you all here today for this regional meeting for the Decade Collaborative Center for Ocean Prediction, which is so generously hosted and supported by Mercator Ocean International. I just wanted to give a few opening words about the decade as a start, where it came from, why we've embarked on this adventure, but also really the importance of ocean prediction and the particular importance of this Decade Collaborative Center within the decade. So the Ocean Decade, as we fondly call it, was really born out of the fact that ocean science and ocean knowledge are central to so many facets of sustainable development. If we're thinking about food security, if we're thinking about education, resilient cities, if we're thinking about renewable energy, ocean science and knowledge is needed for all of these facets of sustainable development. And the decade, which started in 2021, is now entering its 3rd year of implementation. And I think this centrality of ocean science and the need for relevant and timely science and knowledge on the ocean is really greater than ever. But the opportunities are also greater than ever. You know, last year it was called the Super Year of the Ocean. There were numerous global conferences and meetings and convenings. This year there have been incredible advances in terms of new agreements and advances on the negotiation of a treaty around plastic pollution, around biodiversity in areas beyond national jurisdiction. And there's, I think, a really strong and growing awareness of the importance of the ocean for climate, for biodiversity action, and for human health and well-being. The work of the high-level panel for a sustainable ocean economy has really encouraged governments and other partners around the world to really start acting and develop tangible and actionable commitments and engagements to sustainably manage the ocean. So the Ocean Decade is part of all of this. It's part of these opportunities. It's really a rapidly growing global movement that's playing an increasingly important role as the engine of ocean science and ocean knowledge to feed these initiatives. For those of you who know it, I'm sure many of you do, the vision statement of the Ocean Decade is the science we need for the ocean we want. And the decade is structured around 10 Ocean Decade challenges, which range from marine pollution to ecosystems to the ocean climate nexus to sustainable blue food, but which importantly also look at some of the key pieces of infrastructure the Ocean Observations Network, looking at digital infrastructure, the pieces that we need to be able to meet some of these big challenges. And of course, ocean prediction is really central to all of this. The Ocean Decade has grown rapidly since it started, which, as I said, was in 2021, and it's really been wonderful here at the IOC of UNESCO, which leads coordination of the decade, to see that growing momentum. There are now 48 global programs. We just had our 48th program endorsed. They're working across all 10-decade challenges across all ocean basins. But there are still notable geographical gaps in leadership. There are challenges in getting skills, access to partnerships, access to data, access to technology in least developed countries and small island developing states. And that's why, one of the reasons why we applaud this initiative of Mercator through the Decade Collaborative Centre to set up these regional hubs, because it's so important to be able to translate the global ambition of the Ocean Decade to the regional level and start filling some of these geographical gaps that we're seeing in the Decade ecosystem. So these 48 programs, we also have close to 300 projects now. And if we're going to achieve the stated aim and vision of the decade to have the ocean we want by 2030, we're going to need massive amounts of coordination to ensure that we really are having a collective impact. And from the outset, the Ocean Decade was structured within UNESCO to have a very light and central coordination structure. But the aim was really to rely on partners with deep thematic and regional expertise and networks to take the decade to a level where impact could be achieved. And Mercator Ocean International was one of the first partners to rise to this challenge via the establishment of the OceanPrediction Decade Collaborative Centre. And I think it's fair to say that Mercator has really become a model for others to follow through the innovative approaches that they're using to regional engagement, community creation, knowledge sharing, catalysts of partnerships. And IOC-UNESCO and the Decade Coordination Unit sincerely thanks Pierre, Enrique, and the whole team for their leadership and engagement in this regard. Now, Mercator is not alone. Other Decade Collaborative Centres, Decade Coordination Offices have been emerging. We now have Decade Coordination Offices focusing on ocean observing and data sharing, and both of these are actually housed within UNESCO itself. And so in this way, the Ocean Prediction DCC of Mercator is really able to play an even stronger and more impactful role by working with these other Decade Coordination Offices along the whole ocean science value chain. 2024 is going to be a critical year for the decade. It's going to come fast. We're already very, very close to midway through 2023. The 2024 Ocean Decade Conference is going to be a seminal moment for the decade. It's going to take place in Barcelona in April, from the 10th to 12th of April 2024. Pre-registration has opened, as has the call for satellite events. So have a look at the Ocean Decade website and find out more. And that Ocean Decade Conference, of course, is going to be an essential part of the preparation for the 2025 United Nations Ocean Conference. With the support of Mercator, the DCC and other partners, we hope that the ocean forecasting and prediction community is going to be able to really seize these opportunities, these events, these major global convenings that are coming up, to grow and to continue to catalyze new and innovative partnerships and sustainable development solutions. So having these discussions like today at the regional level is going to really ensure the relevance, the uptake of the results. And this meeting is so important. I wish you all wonderful discussions. I wish I could be there with you in person, but unfortunately I'm traveling and I'm committed elsewhere. But I really look forward to continuing to collaborate in the framework of the decade with the team at Mercator, with the Decade Collaborative Centre, and with all of you to collectively achieve the vision of the Ocean Decade for the ocean we want by 2030. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The second presentation will be made by Pierre Bahurel, and it's also recorded, but it's the last one to be recorded. All of our panelists were able to connect and be with us today. So, Vincent, if you can share the second video of Pierre Bahurel, who is the Director General of Mercator Ocean International.
Dear colleagues, dear friends of Ocean Prediction, I am Pierre Bahurel. I'm the Director General of Mercator Ocean International, which is the organization that has been entrusted by IOC-UNESCO for the implementation of Ocean Prediction DCC. I'm fully convinced that this is timely, this is necessary to deliver as one community, worldwide community for ocean prediction. And we were ready with Enrique Alvarez Fanjul, the technical coordinator of the DCC, to fight for this, to work with you. But we were not prepared to receive such a response from you, from the community, about the appetite for doing more. So yes, we will do that. I have the feeling, and more than that, that there is something happening in our community of ocean prediction. Political leaders, they have decisions to make for the ocean, and they turn to us. They are looking for the data, they are looking for evidence, they are looking for this digital oceanography, the modeling, the prediction, to explain more. And we are there, and we are ready to deliver. And we are more impactful than we think, and more organized than they think. So this is exactly what this Ocean Prediction DCC is about. Organize our community, make it clear, visible, and impactful, and be ready to deliver as one at the end of the decade. But we will do more, and every year we will deliver, and we can trust Enrique for this, to steer our group to really deliver. And this year we want to deliver two things: a map and a plan. A map to put each of us on the map and be able to identify who is where and what are the best practices for your region, to share them with the other region. And the plan to explain what we want to do all together, the standards, the technical background that we want to share, and how we will deliver. And we can trust Enrique for this, to steer our group to really deliver. And this year we want to deliver two things: a map and a plan. A map to put each of us on the map and be able to identify who is where and what are the best practices for your region, to share them with the other region. And the plan to explain what we want to do all together, the standards, the technical background that we want to share, and how we will deliver as a community. A map and a plan. And something which is very important is that this Ocean Prediction DCC is a collaborative center. It means that this is a bottom-up approach. We will work from the programs of the UN decade, this fantastic momentum that has been creating with programs that are gathering the projects and the actions. So we will play with the program leaders and the teams to identify what is mature to organize this community. And we will play with the regions, with your region, because we do believe that the best experts in your area are you. So we want to understand from your region what can be shared with the others, how we can work together to deliver as one in this Ocean Prediction DCC. So I wish you the very best for this meeting, and trust Enrique for the rest of the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vincent. Sorry for the technical problem during the video. I will give the floor to Enrique Alvarez to present Ocean Prediction DCC plans and regional team architecture. Over to you, Enrique.
So thank you very much, Barbara. Thank you to all of you for being there. Just before starting my presentation, I would like to invite you to make questions through the chat. So to me and to the other participants, please use the chat to drop questions, because I'm afraid we will run out of time due to the tight schedule. So I will share now my screen. And introduce you what are we pretending to do with what are our objectives, what is our vision about Ocean Prediction Decade Collaborative Center. So first of all, I would like to explain where we are in the framework of the decade. Taking into consideration what is written in the Decade Implementation Plan, this is a summary of the structure, a very simple summary of the structure of the decade. We have like two big boxes. On one hand, we have the governance and coordination framework. This is formed by the Decade Coordination Unit, which is the direction Alison, who previously spoke, is working there on the Decade Coordination Unit, is the direction of the decade. And then we have on the right the different programs, very well known, like 4C, DITO, James Ocean, Coast Predict, and others. This is where the development should, in theory, be done through the projects. And in the middle, we have this other intermediate layer, which is the collaboration, monitoring, and coordination layer. And this is where OceanPrediction, DCC, and other DCCs and DCOs yeah, basically the same kind of structure. I'm not entering into the difference between these two. So this DCC, OceanPrediction, talking to other DCC, should be doing this collaboration, monitoring, and coordination work, ensuring that the different programs of the decade are generating coordinated results, are collaborating properly, and are delivering something that could survive the decade. This is the goal, to ensure collaboration, so the results are important and could survive the decade, could be longer than the decade. So if I have to summarize in one single slide, what is the mission and vision of the OceanPrediction DCC, this will be the slide. So this is on the left, the ocean forecast we have today. We are proud of the systems that we have because we have been developing those systems during the last decades, but we must be aware that they are somehow technically disconnected. I will explain what I mean by that later. And they are difficult to implement, they are difficult to operate, they are difficult to maintain. So there's poor presence in countries that are technologically less advanced. And we want to move to this other scenario where we have many more systems worldwide. We have those systems connected around a community of persons, a community of users, a community of scientists. And also we have these systems connected technically because they are using the same tools, the same standards, the same best practices, and they are taking advantages of the incoming digital twins. So this will be more robust systems based on new architectures. So to do this large transformation, this ambitious transformation, the captain, of course, in this analogy of a vessel, the captain will be the UN Ocean Decade. The actions, the engine will be in charge of the decade actions and the developments of the digital twins. Our crew is the community that we are building, and the regional team is a key element of this community. So the North America regional team is one key element of this crew, of this community. And our role will be to inspire the route from one place to another, will be the one of navigator in this analogy of the vessel. So we are basing our activities in two fundamental pillars. First one is the community that we are building, and the main objective of this year is to build this community, and this is why we are having this meeting today. So we are doing this community working with the regional teams. We have divided the world in different regions. North America is one of the regions, and we are trying to take the best of UNEP regional SIPs and GOOS regional alliances and take this and incorporate this into our different regions. So those will be promoting the implementation and use of ocean forecasting systems worldwide. Once these structures will be organized, and we are advancing well to finish this year, to end this year with this properly organized, these regional teams will be our boots on the ground, first of all, to identify and attract this wide community, this transversal community, not only formed by scientists, but including users, private sector, non-governmental organization, etc. Of course, because we are a DCC, to support decade action related to ocean forecasting, like 4C, like CostPredict and others, identify gaps and ways forward, work on capacity building activities starting hopefully next year, and advocate for the implementation of best practices, standards, and tools. And this last point links with the second pillar that I will explain later, that is the technical pillar. So going a little bit more into the governance of these regional teams, we will have in each region a similar structure with two main components. First of all, a regional focal component with a chair, or in this case, we have two chairs that will be introduced later, and we will have a steering team. This steering team will be formed by specialists on the same topics in every region. So in every region, we will have a specialist on how to link observation with models, another in physical modeling, another in biological forecasting, and so on. So by having this structure, we will have at the end this matrix where the different experts will be able to talk across the different regions. So we will build this worldwide network of experts. So this is one of the next steps for the North America regional team, to find these experts that will volunteer to use some time in working in this structure, connecting all across the world. So this regional team experts, this network of topic experts, will have focus on different aspects. First of all, we are listening to the ideas of the experts. They will act as focal point in the region for the topic in which they are experts in this framework, in this network that we are building. They will talk with experts in other regions, and they will support several activities of the DCC that we are starting this year. The mapping of the ocean forecasting activities that Pierre was talking about, and Romane will explain in the presentation, where he will show the atlas that we are building and we will soon deliver. Support the gaps and need detection activities, contribute to the communication and the forum. Again, these are related to the webpage, and you will understand this after next presentation by Romane. Contribute to expand the community and support capacity development and ocean literacy activities. So this is how we are advancing. This is the situation today. We are advancing very fast in all the different steps of building our regional teams. So this is what we understand as necessary steps to build our regional teams, from the chair as a first step to the steering team already on position and ready to be there. The Asian guys have been very, very fast in developing everything. We are going more slowly in other regions, and North America is doing pretty well, and we are now starting to develop faster and faster. So we hope to finish the year with everything done and ready to start in 2024 the activities of this matrix that I was commenting on my previous slide. This is how the regional teams look in other areas. Many names already on board on the steering teams of the different regional teams. So we go now to explain briefly the second pillar. The second pillar is the technical pillar. So as I said, we consider that our system, the gap that we have is that our systems are technically disconnected. You can see this very clear during development. If you are not in a very powerful organization, you have to do a lot of research, a lot of reading. You have to start from scratch when you develop an operational forecasting service, because there are not the right set of tools, standards, and best practice in place. And even if you are smart enough to finish this and to have this ready, your problems does not end there, because during exploitation, you have no possibility to use common tools for validation, dissemination, etc., for data analysis. So you will be forced basically to recode, to reprogram what the people have been done dozens of times. So this is not an optimal situation, and we believe, and I think this is dragging the development of operational forecasting systems around the globe. It's quite hard to implement and operate those systems. So Dedicate is a great opportunity for us. It's a game changer, and this is what we want to advance in the technical side. We want to build a new scenario for ocean forecasting, where systems could be easily implemented and could be more robust, and this will be possible by harnessing the Dedicate and the digital twin opportunities that are popping out now. So first step, note that I did not wrote here solutions, I wrote towards a solution. The first step is trying to work on the design of an architecture that could be implemented based on tools, standards, and best practices in the future. So we will design this new architecture in cooperation with related Dedicate programs. In fact, next week in Toulouse, we have a very important meeting about this, and we will discuss really what, with wireframes, with blueprints over the table about these architectures. So once we agree on this architecture, the results should serve to inspire Dedicate program development targets during the decade, and hopefully to help in this transformation and having this new scenario by the end of the decade. So to finish, we believe that OceanPrediction DCC will be a key element for the ocean prediction we need. We will work with an activity community of users, scientists, and policymakers. Certainly, the regional teams are key. Certainly, an active participation of the North America regional team is very important. I have to say that we have to strengthen the connection between North America and Europe in these topics. This is not something I'm thinking now. This is something I thought all my professional life. I have been always a little bit puzzled that we have not a lot of connection with North America teams related to these issues, and these have to be improved. This must be improved, and we have a golden opportunity here to do that. We will harness the decade framework and the arrival of the digital twin of the ocean to join and deliver together worldwide. This is the huge challenge we are trying to accomplish. If we succeed, even if we only succeed partially, substantial benefits are expected. We will have a connected community, new and better operational forecasting services, and a technological linked worldwide ocean forecasting framework. We are aware this is a really significant challenge, and it will only be possible through collaboration with decade programs and other relevant actors. So I hope that you can understand now better our motto, which is connecting the world around ocean prediction. This is exactly what we are trying to do at OceanPrediction DCC. So thank you very much for your time, and I give the floor back to you, Barbara. Thank you.
Thank you, Enrique. Thank you for your presentation. I will now give the floor to Romane Zufic, who is part of Mercator Ocean International team, and she will present the tools that the OceanPrediction DCC will provide to all regional teams. Over to you, Romane.
Thank you, Baba. Hello, everyone. So indeed, you've heard about our ambition and about the fact that we aim to gather this global community, and I'm here today to present you some of the tools and the ideas that we developed that will be gathered on our website to do so. So first of all, this OceanPrediction webpage will be officially launched in a few weeks, hopefully. We are working hard towards reaching this goal. And on this platform, there will be several tools to achieve our ambitions. First of all, there will be the atlas that I will present, a forum to exchange about either opportunities, about challenge, about jobs, about solutions, about technical issues that you face. And the idea is really for the community to come together and support each other for this. We will have a news and events corner, and we will exchange resources as well. So obviously the participation of the community is vital on this website to connect and exchange. So if I dive into the atlas, we will have actually 4 different atlases. First, one of that will map operational ocean forecasting system around the world. We will have also an atlas dedicated to mapping individuals, either professional, but also just interested citizens that are working or interested about the ocean. We will also map institution, and it's worth to note that institution will be linked to their employees, but also to their own system implemented. And we will also try to have a broader review of the downstream services using the forecasting systems. So we aim with this to really be a source of information for our activity and a powerful way to find partners around the world. And this platform is meant for the community to be able to add information, to modify their own information, to link up with an organization, and to switch when it's the case. So here is just a quick overview of how the atlas for the operational ocean forecasting system will look like. So you can see you have different filters on the side. You can try to identify the system you're looking for, either by geographical selection, through organization filters, through variable that through different variables or geographical scale. So as you can see, so when you will put your mouse over a point, you will have the hover that is will represent the area that the model is covering. So, and of course, global models will not be seen like this on the map, but there is a way to, you see there is a button here that is show global models that of course cannot be represented that way. There is also here a snapshot of how people will be represented. You can browse on the list on the side to see the different persons. And if they want, they can link their social media, so you can also contact them further quicker. And here again is the type of information you can find about one person, so the region they are part of, the topic area they are expert maybe or interested about, their degree, working the language, and a short paragraph of bio if they want to add that. Then if we move on, so I don't show all the all the type of atlases, so you still have a surprise when you enter the website, but of course, again, there is the downstream services and the institution atlases. Then we have the forum. So forum is really meant to be a focal point to communicate and to do this kind of matchmaking and doubt solving. And this is a work that will be done very in close cooperation with all the regional teams and also the decade actions. So just to explain you a bit of the categories that you can find on the website, we will have some community announcements. There is this matchmaking service to contact someone. We will share these job opportunities and research opportunities, etc. There is also the ocean forecasting activities that will be related to the decade program. There are specific dedicated forums for the regional teams. So there will be one for North America to exchange directly on that. And there will be forums specifically for technical issues and technical announcements and docs. So also it's worth to note that some of the message on the forum can have different tags. So you can have a specific thing that requires the message to be called technical, but it can still be dedicated to North America. So hopefully that way it will be really easy to navigate and for everyone to contribute. And we aim at some point to have relevant section managed by the regional teams. So for example, the North America regional team forum could be managed by the regional team itself. That makes kind of sense. We have here a short preview with on the left side all the filters. So in a technical part, you have, for example, a list of models. So you want to have, if you have a doubt on or question about one specific models, it will be easy to address this question on the right place. Then we will also have a news corner. So this is as any other website where we share news, but we really aim to have news from the regional team directly and from the decade action directly. So it's really meant to be a collaborative space where we ask for the whole community to send us some news. We can have some special announcements. We can have some also other ideas such as a short story about someone or some institution, etc. So this is really a place that we want to use as a place to connect as well, despite this being just like, it's supposed to be like a paper and a journal where you can also have just news about some not random fact, but some pleasant fact to read, not just boring. And then we come to the resource part. So I will just present briefly the ETUF wiki, but we have also in mind to have a capacity development place and a resource center to exchange all documentation and also slides and recordings, etc. But one of the main important features of this website is the ETUF wiki. So maybe you are aware of the ETUF guide. That is a comprehensive document on implementing an operational ocean forecasting system. And we converted this technical document into a wiki, so an editable document. And the idea is for everyone to be able to contribute to consolidating the version of the existing guide. This will be under moderation, of course, and the idea is to together implement changes and propose some edits to keep this document up to date, and to publish a consolidated version every 3 to 4 years. For example, we already have in mind to have a new section on biological modeling and also on a new chapter on tsunami. And we already know that some improvement or some topics are not covered right now, such as we must include a river contribution. So this is really work that will be a collaborative work. And of course, credit will be given at the top of every chapter. We will have the name of the contributors and of the original chapter coordinators. So if I go to the next one, this is about the hosts. So we, for those who attend the kickoff meeting back in January, we had a place called the exhibition halls, where we were showcasing different partners' capabilities. Either we were showcasing some ocean forecasting system or downstream services or decade action, and we really would like to use what we gathered and the hosts and exhibitions that we provided on our website. So we will still continue to implement that, and this will be, of course, open to some edits and some additions. So we will start with what we have, but with the aim of making it grow. So having some ID of one operational ocean forecasting system, for example. So that's about it of the website and what we can find there. And again, stay tuned for this opening in hopefully a few weeks. Thank you.
Thank you, Romane. I will now give the floor to Fraser Davidson, who is from Fisheries and Ocean Canada, and one of the two chairs of this regional team. I think we still see Romane's screen. I'm not sure. Fraser?
Yeah, here. You cannot share screen while the other participant is sharing. Okay.
Okay.
Did you? Okay. I
I
was just
think,
reading the Zoom label. Yeah.
okay, I think it's just Romane's screen we can see, and as soon as she stops sharing, I think you will be able to.
Okay.
Sorry, I lost my window, but I'm getting there.
Okay.
Okay, sorry, here it is. I lost everything, even the mute button. So
No,
done.
it's fine. Thank you. So Fraser, I give you the floor.
Okay. I'll just share. Okay, is it sharing the right screen? You see a full screen that says Ocean Prediction North America?
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
Very good. Welcome on behalf of Patrick Hogan and I. Patrick will speak in a little bit or in a few minutes. And we just put these slides together just to kind of provide an example or provide insight into what we see as the value for the North American section of the DCC, but also for inspiring a bit on getting together and sharing our information, working together, and really creating the decade of ocean sciences outcomes over the next 10 years or over this decade. I was going to say next slide, but I'm running the slides. So, okay. So a big challenge, as Enrique kind of put together, is to put this develop a shared architecture together for ocean prediction, and not just develop it or create it together, but also adopt it and sort of embrace this shared architecture, so that everything flows as far as information and service information or prediction information or observation information or end user information flows through this knowledge chain, and then basically transfers end user need into really an end user benefit, so that this value chain really responds to end user needs, creating the benefit, and also things like blue economy, etc., that we'll hear about today. So in looking at that full value chain approach, one of the main objectives is of having a framework in place, a bit like the Infrastructure Commission has in the WMO, but for the atmosphere. This will be for the ocean, but it's to increase interaction and discussion, knowledge, etc., within components of the value chain, but also across the various countries, USA, Canada, Mexico, say, for North America, and to really strengthen each individual part of this value chain. Then the next one is also to structure interaction and increase knowledge information across components of the value chain. So that's sort of going across the components and be in touch, well, internationally with the full DCC. But this framework is very important that we created and also that we adopted. And Enrique has talked enough about that, but I just wanted to say these are two themes that we'll be pushing in the North American DCC. Really knowledge sharing, but within the component of the value chain and also across the components of the value chain. Then I also wanted to highlight, we'll have a presentation later today on the digital ocean side. And really to mention that this will help create a knowledge flow in the value chain between countries, but also between within a discipline and also across the disciplines or across the value chain. And it'll basically transform an end user need approaches the digital ocean, and all of this information is at their fingertips and they get the end user benefit from it. Whether it's a company, whether it's an individual, whether it's someone out sailing for pleasure or someone fishing I'll say for sustenance. Everybody should be able to use this digital ocean. It will also assemble a bit of all the ocean information that we have, including things like short-term forecasts, but also climate information related to the ocean. And overall, it's really an accelerator of connections, so people can extract full value of what other people are doing or what systems can provide, etc. So for this afternoon, we have 5 exciting talks lined up on the blue economy, physics, climate, a digital twin example from Pramod at Hakai Institute, and also an end user application from the Canadian Coast Guard. I'll pass it over to you if you want, Pat, or I can finish this slide and pass it to the next one.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay, so a year from now, what we're looking for as far as, or what we're working on now, so that a year from now, you'll see the evidence of the North American DCC working, is that in presentations around our work will be more cross-domain, across the countries, but also across different contributing groups in the value chain. And the DCC will show a well-populated, diverse array of ocean prediction systems and information. And we also will see stronger linkages and interactions within and across the 3 countries. And well, I'll leave it here for Pat. You can say a few words if you want, and then we'll, I think, with the chairs, are we going to session 2, or there's another session afterwards?
That sounds good. Thank you, Fraser. I'm unable to share my video, but that's okay. Anyway, that was a very nice synopsis, Fraser. Thank you very much. And I'll just reiterate a couple of things that Fraser said. You know, we're really striving to emphasize the flow of information through the value chain, and also across the components of the value chain. And Fraser mentioned the diverse operational ocean forecasting systems within our node, which is Mexico, the U.S., and Canada. But we're also, you know, working very hard to share that information across the different nodes, and really to try to, share the knowledge so that everybody has access to high quality operational ocean forecasting information, so that they can build out their new blue economy and use it to reach underrepresented communities, and take some of the more mature systems from some of the nodes and allow those capabilities to build out in some of the less mature nodes. So this is really, you know, an opportunity for the UN decade to try to make this a truly global effort to make operational ocean forecasting systems and information available across the globe. Fraser already mentioned this, but we have 5 presentations in this session. One is on the new blue economy. Another is on regional systems and how they relate to physics. The third one is climate and how it relates to operational ocean forecasting systems. The fourth is the digital twins that Fraser mentioned, and we'll wrap up with a presentation on user needs and applications. So without further ado, I'd like to start the first invite the first presenter for the presentation by Carl Gouldman. Carl's from NOAA's National Ocean Service. He's the director of the U.S. Integrated Ocean Observing System, and he'll be talking about the new blue economy. Please take it away, Carl. Thank you.
Thanks, Pat. Thanks, everyone, for having me here today. I'm waiting for Fraser for you to drop your slide off so I can share my screen. And there we go. Can someone give me confirmation that you can see my slides?
Yes, it's working.
Very good. Okay. So thank you. Pat asked me to talk about the new blue economy, and everyone's already been talking about it today. The value chain that Fraser just discussed, the earlier discussions about the importance of forecasts and predictions as tools and information that we use to make decisions, and the value and the benefits we get from those types of decisions. And so I'm within NOAA, within the National Ocean Service, and a small program, but a big mission in the Integrated Ocean Observing System office. And we work all along that value chain in my office, but we're working to coordinate across all of NOAA, and we do that with Canada, with Mexico, with Europe, with the GOOS regional alliances all over the globe, and with the Global Ocean Observing System. So a big mission, and what you all are trying to get done with this collaboration is really important, and I'm really glad to be here. As you all are probably fully aware, we're seeing just an increased growing demand for data and information that includes predictive capabilities is even more important because the conditions are changing, and understanding those changing conditions as they affect society in all sorts of ways is critical to being able to thrive and survive, and to be able to sustain the resources our oceans provide. Within the US, we've done some work to try to understand the value chain I talked about earlier, the providers of ocean data and the providers of information and analytical services. The real value is in the end users who make decisions, the really, really big dollar value, but that's really hard to measure. So within the US, we've at least taken 2 different efforts in 2015 and 2020 to analyze the data technology providers and the analytical and predictive capability providers. And the amount of funding that those revenues are generated from the private sector companies is $7 billion in 2015 and $8 billion in 2020. And so we know this enterprise of participants, which we're in a broader sense inclusive of academia, government, nonprofit sector, and the private sector. And the way that we build solutions to meet our needs together is within the new blue economy, the information-based economy that helps us make decisions and helps us survive. In addition to the ocean enterprise studies I just mentioned, we've been expanding and trying to grow the ocean enterprise itself, to grow the pace with which we can innovate. We're improving ocean-related data and predictions and data access. We're promoting development of the enterprise writ large. We're enhancing service delivery and decision support services, and we need to build an expert and diverse workforce. So we've been having dialogues with industry on an ongoing basis for the last 10 years, but we're trying to up our game, increase the periodicity with which we have those discussions, get feedback on how are we doing, how do we communicate the research to operations chain, how things are changing, and how to partner to innovate faster because the needs are just increasing. Within the US, we have a unique funding opportunity in front of us right now. My office is the lead for something we're calling Ocean-Based Climate Resilience Accelerators. We have $60 million in funding that we're putting out with those theme areas that are on this slide towards ocean renewable energy, coastal ocean-based carbon sequestration, monitoring and accounting, hazard mitigation, and coastal resilience, and ecosystem services management. So the idea here is to de-risk involvement and participation from the private sector to join with academia and government to build solutions towards these coastal resilience theme areas faster. And these are going to be 4 years worth of programming with awards that we'll make in this coming fall, and then final down select awards next summer. So excited for this kind of work to be taking off in the United States, and we think it'll be helping. We'll be coordinating with folks like Canada's Ocean Supercluster as well, because they're doing great work up there to try to innovate and grow this ocean enterprise and new blue economy faster. And then workforce development is something we all know and recognize is a need across the board. The information-based economy needs information-based experts and workers, along with the trades folks in terms of bending metal and steel and putting things like offshore wind into our oceans in the future. So we've got a lot of opportunity and we have a lot of need. And so we need to coordinate better to better increase the capabilities and the numbers of supply in the workforce that we have. There's a survey on a that web link that I provided there, where we're working with National Science Foundation to ask questions at the events and workshops we go to try to get a feel from everybody in this ocean enterprise about how we can up our game faster in terms of workforce development. And so finally, just cheering everything on that you all are doing. Dr. Spinrad is the head of NOAA now, and top priorities within NOAA include an information-based blue economy, and that's what we're talking about in my talk right here. And predictions are really the currency of the realm in terms of advancing capabilities, and you all know that better than anyone. So I'm really preaching to the choir. But I wanted to end my slide on that note, and thank you for having me today, and look forward to the discussions. And I think it's over to you, Carolyn Lindley, next.
Yeah, thank you very much, Carl. The second presentation is by Carolyn Lindley. Carolyn is the head of the Observation and Modeling Branch within COOPS, the Center for Operational Oceanography and Products and Services, which is part of the NOAA National Ocean Service. So Carolyn, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Pat. Can you all see my screen?
Yes. Well,
okay.
It's loading now. I did see
okay.
It. There it
Excellent.
is.
Great. So yeah, I'm pleased here to be presenting on the U.S. National Ocean Services Operational Forecast System. So these are our coastal and ocean hydrodynamic modeling systems. So the main motivation for us to provide these capabilities have been to provide predictive information to support decision-making in some of these key mission areas. So navigation, protecting human health, things like harmful algal bloom forecasting, epoxy and pathogens, to support hazardous spill response and search and rescue, as well as coastal resilience. So these have been some of the principal drivers for how we've built out our coastal forecasting systems and capabilities. So this is a schematic that just shows our current geographic coverage. When we first envisioned the program some 20 odd years ago, our goal was to provide 2-day predictive information in our ports and estuaries that had significant navigation interests. And so what you can see, especially on the East Coast, is what resulted in a kind of patchwork coverage. And what we since realized is that we can, through advances in science and technology, provide larger domain coverage to really fill all those gaps while still providing that high resolution needed in the navigable waterways. So this it's just a schematic that just shows our coverage of our coastal 3D operational forecast systems. We, Ocean Service, also provide a surge and support a surge and tide operational forecast systems. There's a capability in the Atlantic that is operational now. The capability in the Pacific is in pre-operational testing, and we hope to deliver that in the next year or so. For our 3D systems, back to the original vision of the program, it was really important that we resolve the horizontal or high horizontal resolution to resolve navigable waterways and specifically shipping channels. And so a main driver of developing our systems is to have that high nearshore resolution. And what we've also appreciated, and I think this was emphasized last summer during an event in the Puget Sound, is that it's also really important that we have the resolution, the vertical resolution, to resolve the water column. About a year ago, there was a shipping of a fishing vessel, in Puget Sound, and for the hazardous response team to get divers safely to the vessel to attach cables, they need to understand what were the currents going to be at each layer that the divers had to stop at in order to attach those layers. And Puget Sound is quite deep. So we are striving to have really good vertical resolution as well as the horizontal for the U.S. coastal systems. All of our systems and operations rely on one of these 4 coastal ocean modeling components. So the Regional Ocean Modeling System, ROMS, this is a coastal ocean model that's supported by Rutgers University. And that is a structured grid system for the finite volume community ocean model that is supported by the University of Massachusetts. That's an unstructured system. Our STOF systems, which I'll show in a minute, are supported by the semi-implicit cross-scale hydroscience integrated system model, SCISM for short. And we are looking at bringing that capability or that ocean model component into our 3D coastal systems as well. And then our 2D global system is ADCIRC based. SCISM is supported by the Virginia Institute of Marine Science and ADCIRC by the University of North Carolina. So a little background on our STOF's 2D global system. It's for the purposes of surge and tide. I think the piece that our development team wanted to highlight here is that it is the most accurate non-data assimilative system for water levels. The M2 tide mean absolute error in deep water is 1.95 centimeters. And along the Eastern Gulf Coast, that absolute error is 2.5 centimeters. So we have a global capability for the 2-dimension. For the 3D capability, in the Atlantic is a system that's in operations now. It is extremely high resolution, and this is a SCISM-based system. And I think the innovation that this system includes is that vertical adaptable grid for river input. So it's that vertical mesh diagram in the upper right corner. And so in our 3D systems, that's that first schematic I showed with the map and the coverage. They provide forecast guidance for water levels. This is an example of our time series output in Baltimore, time series on the left, and then a screen grab of our visualization for Chesapeake Bay on the right. The systems also provide forecast guidance for currents. I mentioned in the previous slide about the importance of having the currents in the vertical layers as well. But this example of the surface currents in San Francisco Bay, as well as a screenshot of time series data at Point Bonita. The systems also provide salinity information. This is an example of salinity output in Mobile Bay. I think we've had some challenges in validating our salinity. It's been challenging to get good salinity observations. I've noticed in some of the salinity observation or sensors we have out there is pretty frequent biofouling. So then understanding how good is the salinity observation to then compare it to the model output. But we do provide that information. We also provide forecast guidance for temperature. And here's an example from Delaware Bay, both the geospatial visualization as well as the time series output. And then we're excited to share a new capability that we hope to deploy in the first quarter of the next fiscal year. It's called Oceans Map. So this was developed in collaboration with a company called RPS, as well as the Regional Association for the Mid-Atlantic, Mercus. It does bring together our observations and model output into a single visualization capability. Our previous graphics, which I showed, are IDL-based. And this capability really provides much more facility opportunity for the user to dive into the model output, zoom in, zoom out, bring up multiple systems. And this is a screen grab from our Cook Inlet system. And it actually can show you how you can show the observations, the visualization of the system, and then also some statistics. So how well is the system performing? So we're really excited to be bringing this system into the NOAA environment, hopefully in the next few months. I have another screen grab because I really like this visualization that just shows where we could bring all of our coastal systems up for water levels on July 7 at the same time. So it's really, really exciting to be able to show this capability. Also flagged here where we're bringing new systems online. So a new system for the Salish Sea and Columbia River, as well as a regional system for the East Coast and high resolution systems for the Northeast Coast and the Southeast Coast. So hoping to fill that gap, the Southeast Coast of the United States, within the next few years. So how to access our data. So at Co-op, Center for Operational Oceanographic Products and Services, we do support a thread server. From that thread server, you can access 30 days of nowcast and forecast data. So we have our station files, that's our time series output. We have 2D data sets as well as our full 3D data sets up to 30 days. We have 2 years of nowcast files, stations 2D, 3D available through the NOAA Open Data Dissemination Program, as well as the most recent 60 days for our forecast files. And then for our long-term archive of nowcast files, that is available through the NCEI thread server. And we have also included in that a long-term archive of our station files, our time series files for forecast information. This is the 3D coastal systems, the high-resolution nearshore systems. For our global systems, the storm surge OFS data, all that data is available through the NOAA Open Data Dissemination Program. And I show here on the left some visualizations of that model output through NowCoast, as well as through a Louisiana State University supported system called SIRA. And that visualization from SIRA in the bottom left there, that is the performance of STOF's 3D Atlantic during Hurricane Idalia a few weeks ago. So we work with many partners. We Ocean Service, we have contributors from multiple different program offices, so co-ops and IUC you've heard from today, also development teams and coastal ocean modelers at the Office of Coast Survey. We work with partners in National Weather Service, as well as research scientists at the Office of Atmospheric Research, Great Lakes Environmental Research Laboratory. We also have many external partners. I've listed some here and just want to emphasize this list is not exhaustive. I just mentioned Louisiana State University, and we don't have on this list, but definitely very valued partners. Partners I do have listed here, University of North Carolina, they're the stewards of the AdCirc system. Pacific Northwest National Laboratory, they've been a development partner for our new system in the Salish Sea and Columbia River. Rutgers University is the steward for ROMS. University of Massachusetts Dartmouth, or the system, for the steward for our FACOM. Virginia Institute of Marine Science is a steward for the new SCISM capability, and the University of Notre Dame is a development partner for the STOF's 2D system, AdCirc based. So lots of partners out there. We certainly couldn't do this without their help and contributions. Future plans of the coastal capabilities. So I mentioned the Salish Sea and Columbia River. So there's a schematic there that shows that actual grid of what we intend to implement. Hopefully by this time next year, you'll see that in operations. Northeast coast, we have a development project underway that's going to combine existing estuary-based capabilities and get us to that large domain, high resolution nearshore capability that we're moving to. It does increase the nearshore resolution and domain coverage. You can see the coverage going up the Hudson River all the way to Troy, north of Albany there. It's an important waterway that we're trying to provide information for. And then filling that gap off the southeast coast Atlantic. So that's the domain coverage of what we intend to implement probably the next 3 to 4 years or so. And we'll hopefully have full CONUS coverage at that point. Regional applications. So you saw on the first geographic schematic, our West Coast that is currently in operations, and it's been in operations for 2.5 years. We are working with Rutgers to develop a system analogous to that for the East Coast. These systems can support navigation applications, but they are really designed to support other ocean service mission areas, such as ecosystem services, search and rescue, and human health. The systems assimilate or will assimilate in the case of the East Coast, satellite data, HF radar data, and uncrewed systems such as gliders. And we are planning to evaluate the output to assess whether they will actually provide improved boundary conditions for some of our estuary or nearshore high resolution systems. We have realized that our modelers had sort of ad hoc or specific ways that they were going through and assessing their MATLAB code, trying to find compute power was inefficient, running out of storage. Everyone had different visualizations and capabilities. We were running a standard statistical suite. And so we have invested in a development effort to build a infrastructure for data retrieval and skill assessment. This is the workflow that's been conceived of. Development is underway as we speak. We have an observations module, a skill assessment module, the OFS module for post-processing, as well as visualization. And this will help us create the environment and the tools necessary for our modeling experts to really dive in and evaluate and assess the skill of our systems in operations, as well as those in development, so that we can work to improve on our systems accuracy. So we've been talking about the systems primarily within the ocean service environment. This is a screen grab from the IOC or the EDS model viewer that IOC hosts on their website. Please, if you haven't, go check out their model viewer. It's awesome. It's got so many capabilities in there. And the full suite of systems that are available from the regional associations. The regional associations have really excellent relationships with regional local stakeholders. So they've been able to develop and support modeling systems that are really tied to those stakeholder needs. In addition to modeling systems, they can provide the really tailored products and services as well. So just want to emphasize that there's a broad community out there supported by the regional associations, and they provide a tremendous amount of value for our coastal stakeholders. IOC also supports the Coastal Ocean Modeling Testbed. This provides federal funding to support our research and technological communities. Some opportunities that are supported are things like advancing coupled modeling, data assimilation, cloud computing, the unified data frameworks, model transitions, and precision navigation. So it's a really excellent opportunity. These are typically 3-year funding opportunities. And it does a great job of getting funding out into our research community to support ocean service needs, but also the needs of the broader community as well. We are just now embarking on assessing the use of our coastal systems to support coastal resilience. There's a project underway to use the STOF's 3D Pacific system to run a 40-year reanalysis. That system would generate output at every grid point over 40 years, from which we could then do our statistics for some of our new sea level products, including the high tide flooding report. So we're excited about how we can explore these systems to support some of the coastal resilience applications. I think that's it. Yeah, so I'll leave it there. Happy to answer questions during the Q&A session, and feel free to reach out for any other questions. I'm happy to connect folks with our various experts.
Thank you very, very much, Carolyn. It's very impressive, the depth and the breadth of everything that you guys are covering, and look forward to hearing more about ocean maps in the future. We're going to move on to the third presentation. Third presentation is by Greg Flato from Environment and Climate Change Canada. Greg is the Director of Climate Research Division at ECCC. And Greg, the floor is yours. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Just make sure that you can see my screen. Is that the case?
I still see you.
Still see me. All right, let's try that. How about that?
That is better. Looks good.
All right, excellent. Now I just have to find this little button here. All righty. So I only have a few slides here. I must admit right from the start, I'm coming new to this whole discussion, so I wasn't entirely sure what I should present, but Fraser asked me to say something about our ocean work in the prediction and projection realm, so that's what I'll talk about. I won't talk about the nearer term operational environmental prediction, on the out to 2-week kind of timescales. Fraser's much better placed to talk about that than I am. But what I will talk about is more of our climate activities and the ocean aspects of those climate activities. And they span a range, as I'll talk about here. So this slide was prepared for a different purpose, but basically it serves as a kind of summary of the kind of work we do and where we're going over the next few years. For us in the Climate Research Division, one of the big milestones for us are the IPCC assessment reports. We're heavy contributors to those. And the next 7th assessment report, we expect the Working Group 1 contribution to be somewhere in the 2028 timeframe. So that's where our model development activities are aiming in terms of having a new version of our model with new capabilities that would be able to deliver long-term climate projections by that time. But we also have a number of other things. So just quickly going through this slide, the upper row is our our global modeling efforts. We currently have a global Earth system model called CAN-ESM-5 as a fully coupled atmosphere, ocean, land, sea ice, biogeochemistry, terrestrial and ocean biogeochemistry model that simulates the entire carbon cycle plus the coupled climate system. And we use that to make long-term projections of climate change, to undertake research in how climate has changed and varied in the past, to detection and attribution work, all those kinds of things. We're currently in the process of going through a pretty substantial revision of that code. And the biggest revision is actually to the ocean. Well, it's to both the ocean and the atmospheric component. In fact, we use a version of the NEMO code for the ocean. Historically, we've had a spectral atmospheric model. We are moving to the same dynamical core that's used for our numerical weather prediction modeling, but with a different climate physics package. And that global atmosphere model has this peculiar, what's called the yin-yang grid. It's two grids that overlap and cover the Earth without a pole anywhere. So that's where we're headed, and that will be our CAN-ESM-6, which we intend to have ready by sometime around 2025 to begin doing long-term climate simulations with. We also have a regional model, CAN-RCM, current version CAN-RCM-5, which is driven at its boundaries by our global model. It includes exactly the same physics that's in our global models. It includes all of the Earth system components, aerosol treatment, and so on. We are in the process of developing or beginning to develop a new system called CANTODS, the Canadian Three Ocean Downscaling System, which would be a more comprehensive version of our regional climate model. So far, CAN-RCM-5 is only covers the land part of the domain in terms of its higher resolution. The ocean is just a simple downscaled version of the global ocean model results. But the idea is to move towards a fully coupled regional system that will cover all three of the oceans adjacent to Canada. And that little thumbnail that you see there is kind of a picture of what kind of results that will provide sometime in the future. Applications for that, as I already mentioned, we do long-term climate projections to support things like the IPCC, International Climate Policy discussions, to support our domestic mitigation actions, provide information for climate services and adaptation planning, and so on. We are part of the development of what is an operational seasonal to interannual prediction system called CANSIPS. I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. We're currently working on an extreme event attribution system that will be a near real-time system to ask, after an event happens, to what extent was human-caused climate change a factor in changing the risk of an event like that. And ultimately, we're moving towards using our downscaling systems to downscale our seasonal and decadal climate predictions, which we currently don't really do. All right, so just a couple examples. So this is just an example to illustrate where we're going with our ocean downscaling. The figure on the right shows our the output from our global model at 1 degree ocean resolution. In this case, it's showing a biogeochemistry kind of thing. It's ocean carbon flux. And it shows the west coast of Canada. So I'm located in Victoria, which is down here on the southern tip of Vancouver Island. And that's the kind of resolution we would get just from our global model. But if we were to use a 1/36 of a degree regional ocean model, as shown on the right panel, that's the kind of detail that we would be able to get. And that's much more suitable to a number of the applications like fisheries management, search and rescue, spill tracking, all those kinds of things. So that's one of the things that we're actively moving towards. CANTODS, I mentioned this 3 ocean downscaling system. It's still kind of a proposal. We've started some work on it. It would be a collaboration between Environment Canada and Fisheries and Oceans Canada. It would be based on the NEMO ocean code. It would have our ocean biogeochemistry from our global Earth system model. And it leverages all of the capacity we have in the global modeling, regional downscaling, seasonal prediction, it also leverages work that's been underway for a long time as a kind of three-way collaboration between environment, fisheries, and defense. This thing called Concepts, which Fraser has been involved in for a long time and would be able to talk more about. And again, as I said, would be a collaboration with the Department of Fisheries and Oceans and their expertise in regional modeling. So that's the kind of system that we're working on now, beginning to develop, and would be something we'd aim to have available to us sometime before the IPCC assessment. I mentioned the CANCEPS, the Canadian Seasonal to Interannual Prediction System. This is a multi-model system. It's 4 models, 2 climate models and 2 weather prediction models, all Canadian models, but an older and newer version of each of those 2 models blended in a statistical way to produce optimal seasonal predictions out to 12-month timescale or lead times. Most of the products are kind of terrestrial products, temperature, precipitation over land, snow cover, those kind of things. And so at the moment, it doesn't really provide ocean forecasts, although that's where we're heading. But it does provide one thing which is related to the ocean, and that is a sea ice prediction, which also goes into is also an operational product and used by the Canadian Ice Service. And this just shows an example of that, and showing an evaluation of predictions of freeze-up date. So we can start at this thing runs every month, but so this is just an example from October 1st of last year, and it's a prediction of where the date at which sea ice would first form at each grid cell, and it's given in days either earlier or later than the average over the 2013 to 2021 period. And the panel on the right is the observed value for this past year. And you can see where the ellipses are drawn, the green ellipses, that there's actually, if you look in detail, good correspondence with the patterns of where freeze up occurred. And the lead times here are different depending on where you are. They're anywhere from basically 0 to as much as 6 months lead, depending on where you are in the ocean. So that's another capability that we have, and we are intending to expand that to include ocean variables, in liquid ocean variables, in addition to sea ice. So that's it for me. Thanks very much, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Greg. That was very interesting. I think we're just going to go ahead and wait to the end to ask the questions. Wait to the end of the presentations. I certainly have some questions about the high resolution capabilities that you all are developing, but I'll wait for that as well. We're going to move on to our 4th presentation. This is by Pramod Thupaki. Pramod is from the Hakai Institute, where he's the technical director of CEUS, the Canadian Integrated Ocean Observing System. Pramod, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
And
we can
see the
your
screen as
slides.
well? Okay, great. Excellent. Thank you. So my name is Pramod Thupaki, and yes, I work for Tula Foundation. I'm here to talk about digital twins of the ocean and provide some insights into the developments in the space with a focus on the Canadian side of things. So first of all, I would like to acknowledge that the slides were developed, presentation was developed with input from a number of people and organizations, but however, the opinions were presented, especially, are my own. In the next 10 minutes, I'll go over a quick introduction to digital twin, the major concepts and its importance and application areas, as well as going over the specific developments of the Canadian scene and some planned next steps as well. First, a quick introduction to the Tula Foundation. We are an independent charitable foundation that was established in 2001, and since its inception, Tula has built a strong expertise in ocean science, data management, communications across a range of divisions. Some of these are mentioned here. Tula's independence allows it to work seamlessly with universities, governments, First Nations, nonprofit organizations as well to tackle some important issues. We are also one of Canada's 7 Ocean Decade Community of Champions, and responsible for the predicted ocean decade outcome. In addition, we're also founding members and fund the Canadian Integrated Ocean Observing System, amongst other national initiatives. So some of the key challenges relevant to the predicted ocean decade outcome are shown here. I would like to highlight creating a digital representation of the ocean, as well as unlocking ocean-based solutions to climate change are some of the key ones. And these are and addressing these challenges is where digital twins actually show a lot of value. So digital twins are not a new concept. They have been around for a while, but they're getting more attention, and especially as a systematic framework to make data from models and observations useful to provide essentially actionable insights for decision as well as for policymakers. The idea is to have a digital twin that can be used to answer questions, not just research questions, but also ones that address specific user needs, and essentially get better use out of existing models and data that are out there by providing useful ocean information. These twins can be used to understand responses of marine vehicles, for example, infrastructure, ecosystems, as well as some additional specific questions. So a typical digital twin stands on three legs. One is the central one is a computational engine. These are the numerical models that can be typical process-based models that use three-dimensional grids, unstructured or structured, and then solve your basic primitive equations to actually address how currents and how the material and energy are transported across the oceans. There are also emerging new techniques such as AI and machine learning, which really are quite promising and can provide that additional information at a much faster and quicker response rate. Another aspect of the other leg of the digital twin is a robust observational system that first of all grounds the twins and keeps them honest, but also makes sure that it provides additional information, especially in the form of assimilation and so on, to actually improve the model performance. AI and ML models especially require a lot of observational data, and these need to be curated and machine readable and reliable. So observation ocean systems such as IOs and CUs actually are providing a great deal of information in a curated digitally accessible format that can be used by these models. Finally, but definitely not least, is the importance of a really vibrant ecosystem of end user applications that are being developed by third-party developers, by industry, by local communities, and so on, that really take the observations and take the models and then convert them and combine them to come up with something useful, something actionable, and something that can answer a specific question like what's the weather going to be like today, or will the marine heat wave affect my aquaculture operations, for example, or how best can we respond to an oil spill or a marine emergency. And also, for example, what route should I take if I'm going on a kayak trip, or if I'm planning a glider operation, to make sure that I'm optimizing for both safety as well as fuel costs. And the list is endless. And that's where I think digital twins really are different and really add value to operational ocean modeling systems as well as the handcat models. So changing gears a little bit, looking at the Canadian context, we're clearly, a lot of these concepts are not new, and we have already got several programs that have done great progress in addressing some of these challenges. But still a few remain, and these are focused around the really large, the sheer size of the coastline, and also some key gaps in coverage and of data as well as infrastructure that need to be addressed. We also need to improve accessibility and awareness of available resources and how to use these, and make sure that that robust ecosystem of third-party developers who can actually create those end user relevant applications is built, and it's healthy. Like I said, the strengths are that there are existing national networks and collaborative working groups, and we're not starting from scratch. So looking at a few examples now of where we are, the first one is I would like to talk about some of the Operation Ocean models that are already being run 24/7. There are a number of models that exist. These are at varying resolutions, excuse me, and cover different regions. Access is via FTP as well as through Ocean Navigator and other applications. There are lots of examples like this. There are also examples from universities as well as NGOs, and where they're running some of these models quasi-operationally. And hindcast models, of course, that address specific periods and are also available. And digital twins can be built on top of all of these, essentially. But it's important to make sure that there is that these data are available, and also there's a robust pipeline to actually make that useful in a real-time basis. Observations also play a huge role, and CUs is shown here, all the partners involved in this program. And moving on, we have over 100 years of data available on CUs, and you can filter for this and access these, and they are all using common standards, and therefore it makes it easier to actually access these data to both validate models as well as improve them using assimilations or for providing improved boundary conditions. There are also information services that are being developed. These are some of the examples again that are shown here. These use models as well as observations and kind of create products that are useful for their specific user needs. So it's shown here are applications that can track storm surges, storm tracks, as well as provide some useful information for boating and for other applications, as well as harmful algal blooms and so on. These are not typical. These are not your usual digital twins because they don't really provide a lot of user interaction, apart from being able to change different layers and see different variables, but they do show how you can build on existing models and provide useful applications for users. Colleagues with GFO working on the East Coast are also developing a digital twin based on historical data and regional forecast models to address marine conservation. And this is my last example slide in the interest of time, but let me just say that this is not an exhaustive list. We have many more. Ocean GNS, Ocean Navigator, etc. These are all applications that are developed and are available to users to then make use of models as well as observations to address some of the challenges that I mentioned earlier. In summary, digital twins are a key technology, and they address key decade challenges. We have already been addressing several of these components, and we're definitely not starting from scratch. And some of the key gaps include building awareness. We need to develop standards and data mobilization and so on. And that's what really builds strength to the whole idea of developing digital twins that can be used by different specific user groups. There's also a need to engage with industry, and educate and inform communities to increase the uptake and usage of these twins. And finally, I think it's important to collaborate, because these problems some of these problems that I mentioned are common and across the region, and reinventing the wheel is not really necessary. It's rarely a good idea. So we should learn from each other's strategies and experiences, and hopefully that's where programs such as OceanPrediction, CoastPredict, Ditto, etc. actually can play a big role. And with that, I'll end my presentation. Yep.
Thank you very much, Pramod. That's very interesting work. I expect you'll get a lot of questions in the next session when we have a discussion. We're going to go on to the last and final presentation of the session by Mark Gould. Mark is with the Canadian Coast Guard, where he's the Regional Supervisor for Maritime Search and Rescue. So Mark, if you would bring us home, It's all yours.
Good day, everybody. Hopefully you can see my slide and that it works a little bit better than this background thing here. But I'll move right in. I'll talk a little bit about CANSERP. Let's see. My name is Mark Gould. I'm the Deputy Superintendent for Search and Rescue. I supervise the coordination aspect from the Maritime Rescue Subcenter in St. John's. I also chair the Automated Search Planning Tool Working Group, which is essentially our drift software for search and rescue. I wanted to start off with an example, so if nothing else, you can see how some of the work that you guys have been doing supports us and can save lives. So this was from earlier this year, 18th of June. It was a small boat with one person on board, was reported overdue to JRCC Trenton. He had been overdue for about 2 days when we got the call. We used our system, our search and rescue planning tool known as CANSERP, to estimate where that vessel would drift over that 2-day period. And you can see on the image the wind and the current models shown in our grid. 2 days is quite a long time to drift something. It's a lot of room for error, but the boat and the occupant was found alive at just 1.6 miles east of the mean position in the high probability area. So it was a really strong performance by the models and the systems that we were using at the time. And for that success to happen in search and rescue, we need two things. We need the searcher to be able to detect the search object. So whoever's looking needs to be capable of seeing what we're looking for. And we need the search object to be within the search area. We measure the detection capability as a probability of detection. It's just a percentage that says this is how likely the search unit is to see the person. And we measure the chances that the person is actually in the search area as probability of containment. These are important because when you combine the probability of detection with the probability of containment from a search and rescue standpoint, we get the probability of success, and that's ultimately what we're working towards. Probability of detection is fairly straightforward for us, but we do use a number of things taken from models and forecasts, although mostly in atmospheric conditions like wind and visibility, wave height, precipitation, cloud cover, ceiling height for aircraft, and even the phase of moon to tell us that how much light would be available. And we take these pieces of information and we use tables or lateral range curves. These are from the Canadian Search and Rescue Manual, but they're identical to the international manuals as well. And you can see here for aircraft at 1,000 feet, looking for an 8-person raft, we'd start with a detection range of about 3 miles. But if the winds are forecasted to be 15 to 20 knots, multiply that by a factor of 0.5, and we're left with a detection range of about 1.5 miles. We then design a search pattern using that information, and we can evaluate it in different ways. Once we get that detection range and we're designing our search pattern, we can increase the track spacing here, but that decreases the chances that we're going to see the person, although it does increase the amount of area we can cover. All this is just a complicated way to say that the bigger the search area, the less likely we are going to be able to see or find the person alive. The smaller the search area, the smaller the track spacing, the higher the detection capabilities. Probability of containment is probably where we're most applicable to this form, but it's just a measure of whether the search object is within the search area or not. And it's entirely dependent on the predicted drift of the search object. So we can do this manually, where we take the leeway, which is the effective wind on a search object, combine it with the total water current from a model. Leeway has 2 factors, it can go left or right. And we draw circles around each of those points to represent the different errors in our calculation or in the models. that gives us a search area. But with new computer-based modeling, we use probabilistic modeling to introduce those errors for us, and we come up with something like this. We can represent it as particles or as a heat map and use that to show high probability areas and to plan a search more effectively. But with the new theory and computer-based modeling, it's based on that drift and that heat map to have 100% containment, which means we need to ensure that the search objects always fall within the predicted area. And in validation trials, we found that's not always the case. In October of 2020, we did some to test out some new software and a new model, and found that after about 8 hours of drift, the search objects, in this case, the triangles were life rafts, the circles were dummies to represent people in the water, had all drifted outside of the heat map. So for us, this would mean a 0% chance of success. In a real case, we would not have found these people because they were outside of our search area. As a result of this test, we increased the error in our program to account for the confidence in the model. So future drifts in the same area will show a larger heat map to ensure a probability of containment. But there are consequences. A larger area means it's harder to cover. And in my first example of the success story, although the search object was found 1.6 miles from the mean position, the search area itself was almost 40 nautical miles wide. So had we tried to cover the whole thing, it would have taken a long time and would have been difficult to achieve an acceptable level of success. So as we increase our areas to ensure containment, we decrease our probability of success through the detection issue. And we see this with all models. We just did one just a couple weeks ago to test a new model here in Canada. This first drift shows an ISL DMB or a current buoy to tell us actual data. And the search object, in this case a raft, was found really close to the mean position in the high probability area. But I don't know if you can see here in the bottom right, the ISL DMB current vector in black was opposite of the modeled current vector in pink. When we use the model alone, the search object was again not within the search area. So there are concerns, and this was purposely done in a coastal area, which are less reliable for us when it comes to modeling, but it also happens to be where the majority of our cases happen. So there's still work to be done here from an end user perspective. And so to jump into the conclusion, although we have a ton of success stories about the environmental models being excellent, and they do save lives in search and rescue when we can predict the drift as accurately as we sometimes can. But there are still challenges, because as these models improve, you know, some of the work that you guys have spoken about already result in more accurate and more high density models for us to use. Our predictions do become more accurate and can potentially result in smaller search areas and more success. But how much smaller and how much confidence we have in each model and the new work is an area that we're struggling to apply effectively. So a new model comes, how confident are we in that model? Are there inconsistencies within the model from one area to another? And how do we adjust our programming to account for those differences in confidence to ensure that we have the smallest possible search area, but ensure that it has 100% containment? I know I've spoken mostly to the Canadian system here, but these challenges exist throughout the world, whether countries are using computer-based models like Canada, United States, or the UK, many other countries, or if they're in the infancy and using manual search planning. The challenges all remain the same in this field. So I'll leave it there. Appreciate all the work you guys are doing. It's certainly a huge benefit and certainly makes my job a lot easier on the coordination side. So thank you.
Thank you, Mark. That's really, really interesting work. And I really like to see those types of applications. Very interesting. That concludes session 2. I want to thank all of our presenters, as those were all very interesting and professional presentations. And I think they really advanced our knowledge and understanding. So thank you again. With that, I will turn it over to Enrique in session 3. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And please, if you can stop, that's it. So just to comment to the previous speakers, similar exercises done at Europe, in which I participated, had driven to similar conclusion, exactly what you are explaining to us about uncertainty and the models and so on. So we are very short of time, but I would like to invite all the participants, all the people that is together with us today, to turn on the camera for a second so we can make a nice group picture before moving into the contents of session 3. So please say hello to us, turn on your camera so we can see you and we can do a screenshot of all of you.
Yeah, say Mark Gould is minimizing the black spots on his.
I'm not really sure how. This has never happened to me, I swear.
So please, Romane, or tell me when you're ready so we can continue our session.
Yeah, Mark's clear now. You see his face well.
Okay, let me take it now. Big smiles.
Say K epsilon.
Thank you.
Thank you. So it's we are very a little bit behind the schedule, but I think it's worth to give some time for a few questions, if a couple of questions, if you want. So I cannot see I can only see the people that is presenting, but I cannot see the people that is participating. So I'm not able to see if somebody raises the hand. So please, if somebody wants to make some questions, just go ahead and start, activate your mic and start launching the question to whoever you want to talk, because I cannot see the hands being raised.
Enrique, this is Pat. I can't share my video. I think the host has it locked, but I do have a question. The question came to my mind during Mark's talk, but I think it hits on. Oh, here we go. Maybe I can start my video now. There we go. Thank you. My question came to mind during Mark's talk, but I think it really reaches across all the talks, and it has to do with the resolution or the accuracy, the forecast accuracy of the circulation models for the ocean forecast systems. And Mark's point was that as the models improve, we can improve probability of detection, probability of containment, probability of success, et cetera, et cetera. But my question is if you, and I wonder if that's horizontal and or vertical resolution driven. If you increase the horizontal resolution of the regional forecast system, but you don't change the number of observations going into the data assimilation algorithm that generate the analysis for the forecast system, are you really improving your forecast system by going to higher resolution? because you're not constraining the more highly resolved features in your analysis or in your forecast system. So when I was with the U.S. Navy, civilian Navy, we did a lot of these experiments. We would say, well, we need higher and higher resolution, but we didn't have the observations necessarily to support those higher resolution grids. And it didn't always give us better forecast skill. In fact, sometimes it gave us less forecast skill. So that's kind of a general question, but I thought about it during Mark's talk. So I'll open up the floor to anybody who might want to discuss or answer that. Thanks.
I have a lot to say, but maybe Carolyn or Greg can comment on that.
But I can start. I mean, it's the same issue in the atmosphere as well, and that is that high resolution by itself doesn't necessarily guarantee you that you will have a better prediction or a better simulation. It really depends on whether resolution is the thing that is limiting the predictive skill or the simulation quality. So, it's not at all obvious that is in many cases the key limiting factor. And as you say, you are fundamentally limited by small scale processes which you either can't resolve or that you can't observe, and therefore can't constrain a prediction or initialize a prediction in a way that would allow you to have skill at those very small scales. So it really, the answer is that it depends on the situation.
I would like to comment that maybe the analogy with the atmosphere is a little bit cruel with respect to the ocean, because the size of the structures in the atmosphere is so large compared with the size at the ocean, and the density of observation is much larger. So whatever you find as a problem in the atmosphere, you can multiply by 1,000 when you are dealing with the ocean, because of the size of the structures you are trying to solve, and the lack of observation to resolve these very small structures. So Fraser, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, just a comment there. There was work done by Keith Thompson, who's now passed away last year, but with Anna Katavuta, about how the large scale influences the small scale, and even you increase the resolution, but you're constrained by you're constraining the large scale from the large scale system. It still, in some cases, can still provide added precision, or you're not losing much, or you're gaining by having this high resolution system in place. The other option also is to go to ensemble on the high resolution, just to get the spread and so on of what's expected. And in Mark Gould's case, or Coast Guard's case, like, they'll get the fields that they get and so on, but they'd really like to know how much confidence they should put in them. So the ensemble can provide that, even though you're not constraining things as if it was a simulation as well. But it's just to say, one of the main features is really to be able to say to the Coast Guards, or to demonstrate, or to provide the accuracy that they should use in their decision-making tool for these forecasts.
Okay, thank you, Fraser. If we can, okay, Greg, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to add one thing, just to be clear. When I said that it depends on whether resolution is really the limiting factor, and in a lot of cases it is, or is a big part of the limitation. So in both the atmosphere and the ocean, topography, the boundary condition of the model is an important factor. So the extent to which you resolve enough detail of the bathymetry to constrain the finer details of the circulation, that's going to be improved if you increase resolution. But once you get to a point where you've already resolved the bathymetry sufficiently well, then it's, further resolution increase for that particular thing is not going to help you. So that's what I meant by it depends on what the roadblock, or where you are in terms of the limiting factor for your skill.
I completely agree on that. So Rodrigo, your hand is raised, and this is unfortunately the last one if we want to do some of the interactive activities.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Thank you. So I just want to make a comment on the search and rescue operations. There are methods from dynamical systems that has been, well, they've been used in mathematics for hundreds of years now, but they've recently, in the last few decades, they've been extended to, well, these are non-trivial extensions to finite time dynamical systems and also arbitrary time dependent. So, and essentially what these mathematical methods do is they can analyze ocean currents and detect where things are tend to be attracted to it detects structures to which trajectories are attracted, and they've been shown, there's a number of publications, they've been shown to be very efficient in predicting where lost objects can be recuperated, including a paper that included the SAROPS, the search and rescue operation team from the Coast Guard in the United States. So if that's of interest, I would be happy to discuss that and give a small demonstration of how they work and the results that can be obtained from that. And yeah, that was my main comment. Thank you.
I think this is certainly interesting, and I think it links very well with what Patrick and Fraser were saying at the beginning of connecting things across North America and making even room to all of you to explain these kind of things. So this is very interesting, and I'm sure that Patrick and Fraser are taking note for the future. Thank you very much, Rodrigo.
Thank you. I sent my email on the chat if you'd like to contact me. Thank you. Great, thank you. So let's go to have a little bit of fun with this interactive activity. Basically, this is a Slido where we are going to put some questions. Please, team, if you can launch the Slido. You can see on the chat the address for going into Slido. And I can see already some replies there. So this is quite good. So the first question on our slide, please limit your replies to 3 words maximum. If not, the application gets crazy and starts splitting things. So the first question is, which are the main applications that ocean forecasting is having today on the region? And I want to comment that we are doing the same in all regions, so it's going to be very cool at the end to see the difference between one regional team and the other, and to see where the stress is done in the different areas. So please do not hesitate in going into the Slido. You have the QR code there, or the web page on the chat, and please do your contribution, but limit yourself to 3 words maximum. So we're starting to see here things related to navigation, marine safety, hurricane forecast, storm surge forecast, which is obviously quite linked because hurricane forecasts are certainly having huge impact on the storm surge, and we know how destructive this can be with several meters of surge, something that we don't see on our latitudes very often, just sometimes in the North Sea. Coastal resilience, very, very important. Navigation is the largest one up to now. Wave forecasting, storm surge forecasting waves. So it's again related to storm surge. It's basically the same reply. Wave forecasting, which is certainly linked to navigation, it's linked to ports. Then we see something like decadal prediction, something more on the long term. And there's a lot of related with, in general, with coastal hazards, like hazard response, coastal hazard, obviously things like storm surge and weather forecast is also linked with this hazards word. So we can see that, let's say, my feeling is that they are very, very direct application, which is good, related to the hurricanes, related to the storm surge,
related to the hazards. So it's a meteorological risk, which is obviously linked also to the weather forecast and to the risk. There's a lot about disaster risk reduction that I can see from here. And it's interesting to see how important navigation is. I think this is the first time we see navigation in such a high position. Industrial efficiency, that is cool. Never, yeah, that's related with the operations in structures, in industrial structures that are on the shore. Like I can imagine oil installations or gas installations. So I think we have to move fast. We could continue. Please, even if we move to the next one, continue if you want, providing additional replies. I am forced to move to the next one because we are a little bit delayed. So let's go to number 2. So that's interesting. Which are the main gaps for ocean forecasting today in the region? We have been seeing the fantastic systems by NOAA. We have been seeing the fantastic applications in Canada with some very nice success stories, and observations are popping up, very much linked with the final discussions we have had on the importance of observations, on how sometimes improving resolution is useless if we don't have the right observations to feed our models through data assimilation. So confidence obviously is linked with errors. Errors are linked with lack of accuracy, and lack of accuracy can be, as our speakers were saying, with observations. High coastal resolution, this is I think very important also, but I am more optimistic on this one than of the observation. I think we will reach sooner higher resolution than the amount of observation that we will demand. Accuracy, which is again linked with confidence. Computer power, I was not expecting this in this framework, in this regional team. It is obviously very important in other regions, like in Africa, but uncertainty measures, this is linked with the presentation by our colleague in Canada about the drift. Obviously, we have wind here because our models output are as good as our winds. If we don't have good atmospheric models, we don't have good ocean models, and certainly we don't have, for example, good wave models. Subsurface observations, runoff models, this is an old classic. Runoff models, we need the rivers, and I don't know the situation in America, but in Europe it's always been a limiting factor, the absence of good observations for rivers and the absence of good river data. I can see rivers popping out, yeah, that's fog, which is very important for navigation. Ice tide interaction, tidal ice is very difficult to forecast. Resolution, which is linked to coastal models. So I can see some families, some of them are linked to the resolution, some of them are linked to the observation, and there's many inputs about the uncertainty. Uncertainty estimates, confidence, with different words. This is popping up all the time, but observations are leading, and this is not strange, because if it's me participating, observation will be my word here also. So you can still dropping additional words here, but we need to move to next one, please. Which are the activities you think OceanPrediction DCC should focus to improve the situation of ocean forecasting in the region? So this is help the regional team to focus our activities, to have ideas. What is your vision after what you have learned today?
what we pretend to do, how do you think we can help to improve the situation of ocean forecasting in the region? In this case, maybe it's more challenging than in other regions because the situation is already extremely good, as we have seen, for example, through the fantastic models shown by NOAA and the wonderful web pages that are going to be delivered soon. So real-time observations, certainly we are not going to be the ones providing real-time observations, but we can highlight the need of real-time observations. So we can help advocating for, yeah, that's the word, advocacy for resources, advocacy for real-time observation. Collaboration is certainly something we can work and we need to work in. I think that this is in North America something that I have the feeling that we could be really instrumental to support additional collaboration between the countries and even inside the different countries there. So I think this is something that working together with IOS, working together with other bodies and with the other decade actions, we can really try to help. User needs, so this is nice because we want to, as I mentioned it, to go beyond our traditional scientific realm. So we want to go beyond our traditional scientific community, and therefore user needs is something that we can try to incorporate into the equation. And this link between the observations, so the users and the scientists doing the ocean forecasting is something we can bring through our forum, through our atlas, and through the tools we are developing in the webpage. So collaboration is the big word here, and I think this is absolutely correct. Multimodal ensembles. So again, it's not going to be us the one doing this, but we can work in promoting this technology, and this is obviously related with collaboration, especially because you are talking about multimodal ensembles, not ensembles by itself. So multimodal ensembles is deeply related to collaboration, and this is extremely good idea. We are doing this in Europe with different Copernicus solutions. So we need to move to next one, please. What kind of capacity development and ocean literacy activities do you believe are needed in the region? And I think that in this region, obviously, it's not only about capacity development and ocean literacy activities for the region, but I expect that North America regional team will help us to provide capacity development to other regions that are technologically less advanced. So this is something that Pat was saying about the capability that we will have with these initiatives to promote ocean forecasting around the world, to have a better, let's say this is our social mission, and I think we can do a lot about that. In this sense, North America is not only to be obviously part of the receiver of capacity development, but should have an active role in helping us with spreading the voice around the world. So forecast availability, workforce development, education and outreach. This is quite general. So forecast availability, I think this is something that we will achieve through the Atlas. Workforce development is going to be done. In this sense, ocean capacity development, we are going to focus a lot of our activities on the TÜV's guide. Please, if you don't know the TÜV's guide, maybe you can, Romane or Barbara, put on the chat the link to the TÜV's guide. And we are going to focus a lot of our activities on the TÜV's guide and also on the architecture we are designing in OceanPrediction DCC on the co-design team. I talked to you about this meeting we're having this week in Toulouse, and this will be also a key element for capacity development.
So we want to share this with you, and we want to build our capacity development around these elements. So since we are late, please keep on sharing your comments here, but we need to move to the last one and to finish. Here we go with observations. Do you think observations from the region, if available, are sufficient to constrain the ocean models and produce accurate forecasts? If not, what kind of observations are we missing? So we go to the discussion that we were having just after the presentations. So do we have enough observations? What are we missing? Okay, subsurface observations are missing. I cannot agree more. This is completely right. Subsurface is popping up. Salinity, this is difficult to measure. Satellites are doing it not as well as we want near the coast, and measuring salinity in permanent station have a lot of problems with fouling, so salinity measurements are scarce. Current measurement is the same thing, maybe not as severe as salinity, but also very difficult. And we have very little current measurements, apart of those from HF radar, which is the next word that is popping out. We have a very good network of HF radar on the United States, but maybe it's not extended to other regions of North America. Arctic, I guess I'm not certainly an expert on Arctic, but I guess this is certainly correct. Subsurface observation, again with different words. So that's interesting. Better assimilation. It's not sufficient that we have good data. We need to assimilate those properly into our ocean models. So Arctic and subsurface are really the ones that are popping out. I like eDNA. This is quite innovative, and at least to my knowledge, and it's really nice to see it. And if you have a look, you are really describing where it is difficult to measure. It's difficult to measure in the Arctic. It's difficult to measure on the subsurface. It's difficult to measure salinity and currents. So this translates very much into are obvious difficulties to measure in the ocean, which is really nice. So I think this is all we need to finish because the time is over. But do not hesitate to keep on typing any word if you feel that. So with that, I would like to give back the floor to Barbara to finish close the session. Or maybe Patrick. Fraser needed to leave, so it's not with us, but I would like maybe Patrick to close the session as chair of the regional team. So Patrick, the floor is yours. Please close the session. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you for being here.
I'll be very brief. I know we're over time. I just want to thank everybody from the panelists to all the presenters and the audience. It was very informative. And I really enjoyed the interactive part at the end. It's really nice to see what's on everybody's mind and get a comprehensive view of how we can move forward with this. So I just feel that we're at the beginning and we have a lot of exciting work in front of us. And I look forward to engaging with everyone on that. Thank you very much. And I guess, Enrique, are we closing the session? I think we are. Okay, thanks everybody.